No.
We took a,
Anybody in the public that would like to talk about anything that is not on the agenda? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
we took a tour of the high school
yeah,
building
we all-
project last week, and it's coming along
Swiftly.
swiftly. I mean, I think I took some pleasure in knowing that the school that I went to high school with was getting torn down.
Demolished,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, there's something a little satisfying
Put
about
her
it.
name up in the gym and above the bleachers.
I took some pictures, yeah, for nostalgia's sake.
Yeah,
Yeah, Jerry and I
The
did.
portables are really nice.
we went the day before.
Jerry and I went the day before. So
Right.
it was very interesting. What was impressed me were the portable classrooms.
Yes.
They're
Yeah.
unbelievable.
They're going to be for
Really
sale.
nice. They were really,
Gonna be for
really,
sale.
really nice.
Tiny hoops.
Okay, does anybody else have anything? Okay, members of the public.
Hello, everyone. It's so nice that I can see over the podium. It's auspicious. My name is Andrea Aldana. I'm the Chief Program Officer at the Community Development Partnership. And for anyone watching at home, we are your local nonprofit community development corporation. We nurture a diverse year-round community of people who can afford to live, work, and thrive on the Lower Cape. And in 2017, we launched the Lower Cape Housing Institute, which hopefully you've heard of, where we provide training and resources to elected and appointed town officials to support you in your pro-housing policies and strategies. And I am here today to introduce you to our new Director of Housing Advocacy, Amanda Bebrin. Amanda has over a decade's worth of experience in real estate and is also very involved in her own local government in Brewster. And we are absolutely thrilled that she has joined our staff to bring all of her expertise to work on housing issues on the Lower Natter Cape. And I also happen to be an Eastham resident and a member of the Tea Time Development Committee, so I know that there's a lot going on in terms of housing in Eastham. And I also know that any kind of strategy takes a really long time and is complicated to bring to fruition. So I hope that you'll continue to think of the CDP as a partner in crafting and implementing pro-housing solutions that meet the needs of our Eastham residents.
Thank you so much for giving us a little bit of time here this evening. I've just come with Suzanne from another committee meeting. This is where we live now. But I am thrilled to be the new Director of Housing Advocacy at the CDP, and I'm so looking forward to getting to know all of you and getting to work together on some really exciting stuff. The Housing Institute is going to be my baby, so I'm planning it for this upcoming off-season, and I hope to see some of you at our programming. In addition, we are growing our team so that we can better service the needs of the year-round community. We are hiring a second community organizer. So if you know anybody who has really strong interpersonal skills, is good at organizing and mobilizing and talking the talk and walking the walk about housing, please send them our way. That's it for me, but please reach out if you've got any questions or concerns, and I'm looking forward to a very productive partnership. Thank you.
Well, it's great to meet you. If there's anything we need to do to help you, just let us know. I think one of our big priorities is housing. In fact, we're talking tonight about a potential housing initiative. So anything you need, just let us know, please.
Absolutely. You will
Thank you.
for sure be hearing from me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to move on now to Hillary Greenberg Lemos. Did I say that right, Hillary?
Limos.
Lemos.
And Hillary is our new Director of Health and the Environment.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome, welcome.
I'm very happy to be here. I've been on the job now, I think almost a little bit over a month and a half. And I'm getting the lay of the land. The staff has been great. They're showing me around. And I've been working with Jane one day a week, getting up to speed on the projects. And it's all really exciting. So if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
No, we're good.
Jackie filled us in, I think, a
Okay.
few weeks ago, just your experience in Wellfleet.
One question I might want to ask is the Route 6 activities on diverting the wastewater, the runoff.
The stormwater.
Oh, stormwater.
Stormwater. We had talked probably a couple months ago about 2 or 3 different options, a couple retention ponds, et cetera. Do you know where that is, where that stands right now?
I think it's still in the works. We're going to receive some funding to move the project forward, and once we have an agreement in place, we're going to continue to work on that. So there are a couple different options that are still being evaluated.
And what Hillary doesn't know, because it's on my desk now, is we did receive 5 contracts from the NRCS yesterday. So I've signed them all, and
Perfect.
yeah, we're beginning that process. But one of them is salt pond, stormwater, 2 landings, all of the USDA programs that we talked about at town meeting.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I don't know if you heard us talking, but the Title V revision is going to be effective July 7th, so we'll have some work to do on that. So the state just pushed that out to us last week. So I'll probably be back to talk about that in short order here.
Yeah.
Much of a change on the Title V revision from the preliminaries we had seen?
No, I guess the biggest change is they took off a lot of the off-Cape towns, so now it only applies to, now it only applies to Cape Cod. So,
Nice.
so we'll go it together with our 15 towns and see where we land. It's going to be, I think, a lot for the public to understand. We have a lot of educating to do, and I think us as health agents also need to fully understand how to roll it out. So we've got a lot of work to do.
Any other questions? I think that's it.
Okay, then I'm going to ask Alex Nelson to come up and join me. I'm going to give you her brief bio.
Okay.
We've been working with Alex and Outer Cape Community Solutions and my colleagues. We have Leslie Rowell online, who's the health director from Provincetown, Emily Beebe, health and conservation agent from Truro, and Meredith Ballinger, the interim agent for the town of Wellfleet here. Because as a group, we've been working to further our regionalization efforts, and I'm sure you've all been made aware that we've received the ARPA grant, so we're working on bringing a mental health clinician and RN, some health and wellness screenings to our towns, and a facilitation among various town departments to see what program is going on and to figure out how to better share services across the region. So with that, this is Alex Nelson. She's a Cape Cod native from Orleans. She recently returned to Cape Cod. She went to Nauset High School. And she has been working in nonprofit health and human service industries, and she has been the network coordinator for Outer Cape Community Solutions since 2021. And myself and my colleagues have been working sort of on these regionalization efforts, probably for the better part of, I want to say 5 to 6 years, trying to get things up off the ground. So one of the projects that we completed, not yet for Eastham, was the health assessment for the other 3 Outer Cape towns, and we're starting the assessment in Eastham as we speak. So we'll have one complete assessment for all of our towns. With that, Alex, go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks so much. And I do have a presentation to share, so I'll share my screen here. Hopefully it'll work
They didn't
nicely.
give us much time, so you're going to have to talk fast.
Oh, I can talk fast. I
No,
was a teacher.
No, take as long as you need. These are just simply guidelines,
They're guidelines.
Suggestions.
suggestions.
But don't take too long.
We don't want to overstay our
right.
welcome.
No, no, no. Go- Take whatever you need.
We'll come up with hand signs or something. Let me know. Great.
Yeah, like this?
That's it.
Yeah,
Give me the hook. Great. Thank you so much, Hillary, for that introduction. And yes, as Hillary mentioned, we are very lucky to have the other health agent team here today. So we've got Hillary, of course, our director in Eastham. Behind us is Meredith from Wellfleet. We have Emily Beebe from Truro, and online is Leslie. I have been so pleased to be working with these people really since October is when our work took off, and it's just been snowballing in such a beautiful and exciting way. So I'm here today. I get goosebumps every time I talk about this work, so I'm passionate, to say the least. So thank you so much for serving as an audience for all of this exciting work that we're here to share. But before we dig into describing the partnership between my organization, Outer Cape Community Solutions, and the health departments, I want to talk a little bit about what we do separately, just to paint a picture. So this is a definition from Mass Department of Public Health of what the health agents do. So towns are responsible for assuring access to a comprehensive set of public health services defined by state law and regulations. Massachusetts local boards of health are charged with a complex set of responsibilities, including enforcement of state sanitary, environmental, housing, and health codes. It goes on to give a brief and convenient 11-page summary of all of the work that they do, but here's just a brief list. As you can see, it's a diverse and wide range of different things that these folks are up to, including business licensing, septic inspections, food service operations, wastewater testing, and not to mention supporting other departments and running their own department as well. So these folks are very busy, and I just want to make space for that because they do a lot of different things. There's a lot on their plate, and they do it really well. So it's certainly been an education for me to also get to see what goes on in the world of public health and conservation on the Outer Cape. When it comes to my organization, Outer Cape Community Solutions, we're an independent coalition of different partners, different stakeholders, all involved with health and human service, or all involved with health and well-being across the Outer Cape. So that includes nonprofit organizations, it includes healthcare organizations like Outer Cape Health or private providers, for instance, and municipal departments as well. So we are nonpartisan, proudly. We operate through fiscal agents. Something that's really important to know is the phrase rural health network, because rural health networks are practice models across the country that are really important, critical ways to create care coordination in rural communities. So specifically, when we're talking about rural towns where there are often not enough resources, where their populations are smaller, so there's not always a ton of funding to go towards those populations. There's geographic isolation, right? The Outer Cape, if you don't know this, is considered the most rural can be. We're the highest classification of rural, specifically Wellfleet, Truro, and Provincetown, but Eastham is also considered rural level 1. So for me, growing up here and now knowing that, it's just put so much into context to understand that our challenges are really not isolated. Yes, we are special in lots of our identities and our experiences, and there are solutions to our problems, because they're experienced in rural communities all across the country. So this Rural Health Network is also a model that's supported by the federal government, and that was actually how our organization was first funded. We came together in 2019, a group of stakeholders, including from Helping Our Women, from Outer Cape Health, and from Barnstable County, and applied for funding eventually to become and formalize this Rural Health Network. So we've been federally funded. Since then, we're now funded by the State Office of Rural Health with a focus on health equity, specifically in rural communities. And part of that most recent grant with the state means that we get to work with other rural health networks from across the state. So getting to meet with folks from the Berkshires who have really, really similar cultures and communities and experiences has been very, very impactful, because I meet with her monthly, and we're able to talk strategies, we're able to talk challenges, give each other a little hope on those tougher days. So again, those relationships really matter. And I hope by the end of this presentation, you will also really understand that this is all about relationships. And that's one thing that makes rural communities so special, because there are smaller numbers, because you need to rely on each other in these isolated areas. It's so much more about the people and the relationships and those you know in the community and the resources that they can provide for you. So some of our partners include, you'll see different nonprofit agencies on there, Helping Our Women, Outer Cape Health, Barnstable County Department of Human Services, and Lower Cape Outreach. Those are our core team, but lots of other folks as well. Our mission is to build collaborative solutions that increase health equity and improve the health and well-being of all Outer Cape residents through education, advocacy, and collective action. So that collective action piece is group strategizing, really leveraging different strengths and assets that each of these different agencies and groups have to try and creatively problem solve some of these larger issues. Last image for you, just to give you a visual of our structure. We do have that core team. I am not the executive director. I'm simply the network coordinator. So my role is to coordinate and support and uplift the work of the partners in the organization. It's up to them to make these choices and make these moves in the community. We do have this open membership model, and activity really takes place in those work groups. So I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but we have a transportation advocacy work group that's been working with Cape Cod Commission. We have a food access work group that's been partnering independently with the local pantries. Lots of good stuff there. But instead of looking at how we're different, I really want to zoom in on what we have in common between the health agents and Outer Cape Community Solutions, which is public health. So let's first create some shared understanding of what public health is. So this is one definition: the science and art of preventing disease, prolonging life, and promoting health through the organized efforts and informed choices of society, organizations, public and private, communities, and individuals. So that's a lot. That's beefy. But I think what most comes to mind for me, and especially before I got into this work with public health, the word health simply implies clinical in so many worlds, right? But we know that it's so much more than that. So there's we know that health is beyond outside the walls of the doctor's office, right? It's so much more about where you live, where you work, where you play. all of those different elements in your life that impact your health and well-being are now, there's a frame and a term that's used very frequently to describe that, which are these social determinants of health. So whether you have a job, the safety and quality of your housing or school, how easy it is for you to get from place to place, if you have enough food, and if you feel connected to your community, are all important pieces of these social determinants of health. So in the world of health and human services and public health with the health agents, there's really so much that overlaps us and brings us together. So to understand the relationship and the work that we do, I just want to take one more moment to look at the individualized spectrum of health, right? So we know that health is not a switch. You are not healthy or not healthy. It's a spectrum, right? So you can either, be in on one end of the spectrum in a real state of crisis, right? Where you're potentially needing emergency support or public safety to come in and intervene. Or ideally, if you have a safe environment, economic stability, and educational access, you're able to just maintain your good health. But as I said, it's a spectrum, right? So we all fall in different places along that spectrum. So the idea is that wherever you are on that spectrum, we want to get you further up the stream, right? We want to get you as close to that health maintenance, that security as possible. And that requires different resources. That requires different lifeboats. So the goal, of course, is to get everybody upstream, but we need a diverse array of resources all along the stream, because who knows what happens in one's life, right? Different medical conditions, or you may lose your housing, especially in this community, we're very familiar with that, right? Lots of different challenges might come up. So in order to ensure these safety nets, like I said, we really need a diverse array of different resources. Those can look like EMS or police intervention, right, if you're really in crisis. Those can look like accessing in-home health care or one-on-one therapy, right, outpatient. It also looks like being able to access someone who can help you sign up for SNAP benefits, formerly known as food stamps, right? Those are important resources all along, providing folks with enough skills and tools to eventually move their way up the stream, so they're simply maintaining their health and they're not working in this crisis. So that's a lot of different resources, right? And a lot of different people. So the picture that I really hope to paint is the picture of the proactive and reactive world and the large spectrum, which really paints a picture of all of these different folks, right? Thinking of all of the different municipal departments, like libraries, where you can access connection, education, and resources, councils on aging, which are huge resources for our older adult population, police departments or EMS for those public safety calls, our schools, our rec departments, and not to mention all of our really key health and human service agencies who do so much to fill in those gaps in our community when it comes to supporting health and wellness. So this is a 360-degree approach. There are lots of different people, there are lots of different ways to go about it, and every single player matters. We need all of these different folks at the table to have the conversations about what we're seeing so we can support one another. And that's where this partnership really comes into play, because we could operate in silos, we could operate independently, but it's so much more valuable when we're able to have conversation about, okay, how can we actually move the needle forward? So this partnership is so important in this community, I believe, because we're breaking down those silos and we're increasing communication, not just among ourselves, but with other municipal departments as well, and with those health and human service agencies to more directly impact the public health challenges that we all experience. So Outer Cape Community Solutions has been operating for years to do this work independently, mostly with those nonprofit partners. We do networking events, we do education, we are constantly helping agencies know who's who and figure out, okay, if they have a client that has this need, what's the best agency to direct them to? Because of the wide array of resources, you need to know where to go in a time of need. So being able to extend this partnership with the health agents has been so incredibly exciting because, as you see, there are really key players in that 360-degree approach to public health. So it was in October that we formally signed an MOU with the health departments, which has allowed us to partner on a number of different efforts and begin to identify holes, not only seeing where the opportunities are and where the overlapping resources are, but say, okay, that we really need to pay more attention in this area, or this is something that's just not working. Can we as a collective group figure out ways to move forward and make an impact? So through coordinating with the health agents, the goal is to create cohesive relationships among each of these town health departments based on the work that they had already been doing for many, many years, but building upon that even more deeply, and partner on these systemic solutions across both municipal and non-government organizations. So while it may look differently from each of our 360 degrees, we know that we're all doing this work together, and that's really what matters. So one of the other questions that we get often is why this regional approach? Why the 4 Outer Cape towns, right? There are lots of different ways to split up the Cape. Why this? Okay, let's consider the county, right? We were saying before, that's 15 towns. There's a lot of diversity in 15 towns. I'm sure you are very familiar with the challenges that come with trying to work in a region when you're competing with areas potentially like Falmouth, or you're simply looking at data and looking at numbers. With our smaller numbers, often that means smaller resources. Is that always the most equitable approach? It's worth a conversation, right? Also, simply being further away and being more rural, being further away from resources, means we simply have different challenges. So being able to zoom in for a smaller look than just the county really makes a difference in our community. Some folks ask about why not including the lower Cape towns as well, right? Certainly different from more urban places like Sandwich. And Brewster is substantially closer to Cape Cod Hospital than Truro or Eastham, right? You know that your partners in Wellfleet, Truro, and Provincetown have a lot in common with what you're experiencing. I like to just say it's just something about the Rotary, right? Something about that elbow, that there are just a lot of challenges that come with being that much farther from these resources. And this is what this Outer Cape relationship is really all about. It's this rural relationship and rural understanding that comes with being just that much more isolated from other partners and other resources. Why not each town for themselves? Because that's certainly a question that comes up. And I think there was also a conversation today, even among the police departments, talking about regionalizing, right? Looking at those opportunities. The simple answer, we cannot do this work alone. If we learned anything from COVID, it's that we really, really need each other. One of my health agents here says, COVID broke us, and we can't go back to the way things were. And that sticks with me. And I had another conversation with a librarian who said, in times of challenge, the human option is often to just turn inward and to turn away, when really what we need to do is turn outward. And I think it's fair to say that there are some challenges right now in our community that absolutely need desperate, intensive attention and strategizing. Challenges that will not be solved by any one health agent or any one nonprofit or even any one town. We really need each other because a rising tide lifts all boats. I think you also know that simply because you've already partnered with towns in other areas, right? You know that leaning on each other and speaking with each other and problem solving makes your lives easier, right? And that's another important piece. Work smarter, not harder, right? If you're able to combine resources across towns, you're able to increase capacity, therefore improving your sustainability, especially in a time with epic burnout in this post-COVID world, and also increasing accessibility, because we realized through COVID just how challenged certain populations were, right? Issues of racism and classism were really, really apparent, especially in things like with the vaccine rollout, right? We had to really work hard to make sure that we were reaching all of our our highest need populations. So I'm so, so proud of this work. Obviously, you can tell I'm very, very passionate, but I'll take a step back and just let you know about some of the things that we've been able to accomplish through the partnership with the health agents. Because I can say it's a good idea all day, but there's real proof in looking at what we've been able to accomplish. So first of all, that memorandum of understanding, coming to an agreement in the fall about what this partnership would look like, and having those consistent meetings with each other. Already, I feel so much more closely intertwined with my own town government. I'm from Wellfleet, and I understand what's going on in my towns and municipal departments so much better. And I'm able to make those needs and processes known to our other health and human service partners, which has really made a difference. Because even though I was a school teacher, public employee, we speak some different languages sometimes, right? Municipal language is challenging. So it's been really wonderful just to get on the same page and build that relationship. As Hillary mentioned, there was the successful granting of that ARPA award, which involves hiring a town nurse and a licensed mental health professional who will work for all 4 towns and support residents across all 4 towns. Strengthening those municipal partnerships, so having facilitated conversations with the rec departments and libraries and COAs and health departments, talking about all of the things that we have in common, hopefully uplifting and supporting their ongoing relationships so that they can do things like lean on each other, share resources, extend their capacity, and grow, right? We're not talking about getting rid of any positions. This is about leaning on each other so that we can work smarter and not harder. And also those critical health and wellness screenings in an area that is clinically, medically underserved area. We need more public access to health clinics, period. We were also able to expand the Winter Wednesday program, and I'm not sure if you are familiar with that, but it's a program that's been happening in Provincetown, I want to say since 2017, and it is a wonderful, totally free, highly accessible, equitably provided adult education opportunity for a number of weeks, almost 2 months in the winter, when folks are the most isolated, when folks are dealing with some of the larger mental health challenges, able to sign up for a class totally for free at the library or on Zoom and participate and get to know community members. And they're things ranging from Zumba class to nutrition to managing your finances, so you can really find a class that works for you. It's typically just been offered in Provincetown, but with the support of these health agents, we were able to write a grant and bring it into all 4 towns. So there were actually classes in Eastham, and we publicized throughout Eastham. We had residents of Eastham who were participating. So this was really the biggest, most successful Winter Wednesday year yet. We're really excited to continue to grow and maintain that expansion and keep that in all 4 towns. We were able to bring some more vaccines into the community recently through Mass Department of Public Health, and those included $75 gift cards for residents in need. We also have an Ask a Nurse and a nutrition program in some of our public locations across the 4 towns. As you may remember, there is now a mobile unit for medication-assisted treatment, and that's in Wellfleet for those who are dealing with opiate addiction. They can access methadone 6 days a week in Wellfleet. So this is a center that exists in Yarmouth. This comprehensive treatment center is in Yarmouth. And it's a standalone building, and they have lots of services, but Yarmouth is far away. Yarmouth is far away, especially for folks who do not have access to public transit. And you need methadone daily, right? So being able to get that is so, so critical. That's really, really awesome, and that was through the partnership that the health agents have forged. Also, they were able to accomplish a public health needs assessment, and Eastham's is on its way to gather data about what community members are actually experiencing. Because as I said before, it's really challenging to get data from rural communities, especially when it's county-wide and when you're looking at other areas that are more urban. And just in general, being able to build these relationships and partnerships has meant that the health agents and the health departments are more familiar with health and human resources, and vice versa. And what more can we want, right? We want people to know all of the great things that you all are doing in municipal government. And we want folks in the health department who are getting calls about really challenging home situations, we want them to know who they can call and what they can do. Some of the other upcoming and exciting projects. The opioid remediation funds that are coming into the towns from those lawsuits, we have a work group actually established, including folks with lived experience, including folks who are experts in the area of opioid use disorder, and the health agents are also a part of those conversations. So we're in the process of creating proposals and looking at those funds and coming up with proven, practiced ideas to bring to you in order to advocate for how those funds should be spent in those 4 Outer Cape towns. There's also, we're also continuing our relationship with Mass Department of Public Health. There's a Public Health Excellence Grant, which prioritizes regional efforts and shared services, and this is something that Barnstable County has. And I have to say, it's been really exciting just standing on the outskirts of that to see that the health agents are already leading the way when it comes to this regional work. This is direction that's coming from DPH right now, saying it's a good idea to get to know your neighbors, and here they are, have been doing it for years. It's a really good feeling. Not to mention, also, we are piloting resources with the Department of Public Health that are focused explicitly on health equity and looking at race and racism and how that impacts our challenges with health in our community. Health agents have also been really key partners in those conversations. As I mentioned, we're also in touch with this transportation work group and Cape Cod Commission. We know there are absolutely improvements to be made when it comes to our public transit options on the Outer Cape especially. We really have a lot of need. So this is a group of lots of different folks, including members of the COAs, who are coming together and trying to develop different ideas and strategies from things like microtransit models or bringing a dispatch hub to the Outer Cape area, looking into those, researching, and beginning to have some conversations with Cape Cod Commission about that. And around food access, similarly. Working with different partners, having these conversations, trying to move the needle in a strategic way. So that was a lot of information, but as you can see, I'm really excited, and we've been able to do things. We continue to do things. I'm really so thrilled to be able to partner with the health agents, and I'm so excited about our future. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Questions?
Yeah, for one, if people need some help, do they call Hillary? I mean, what do Eastham residents do if they need help to try and get into this partnership and get the help that they may need?
I'm so glad you're asking that question because that's what it's all about, right? How can people get help, period? I could launch right in, but Hillary, do you want to jump in first?
Sure.
Jump in?
So I haven't been here that long, so I don't get a lot of phone calls, but I'm happy to take
can
any
change
call.
that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So I'm happy to take those calls, and because I've been a part of the Outer Cape Community Solutions Organization for a while now, I would be able to direct them to what they need. So all they have to do is reach out.
So you're, at least right now, you're the contact person.
Sure. I mean, we get a lot of those calls anyway, folks that need food, folks that need help finding a medical appointment, folks that are having a housing issue. We take in
Okay.
a lot of those calls regularly.
And Jerry, if I can jump in, I think once, I was going to say at the end of this, once the ARPA grant program is up and running, I'd like these professionals to come back and talk a little bit about the actual structure of it, because we're just in the formation part of that grant. And so Hillary and Alex and the team will definitely have more information in a few months about where and when and what.
I'm just
But-
speeding them up, I guess. I don't know.
And we do, yeah, you are. You're just,
We
yeah.
also have the
Okay.
Navigator program in
Yeah.
town, which helps a lot of folks in all
Look,
of these
there's-
towns.
From where I was from, the public health stuff here is far greater than where it was in my original spot. And I
Wow.
commend you. But it's great that we're going forward further. That's fantastic.
Absolutely, because we know that you're not the only one asking that question. We have our health and human service agencies who are saying, okay, how can people find us? They want to be more connected to the community as well. So it's a collective challenge. There are lots of people in need who aren't quite able to find the resources they need, which is one fantastic reason that the Navigator program exists. And I'm so excited that the town of Eastham participates in that, because the Navigator's role is to navigate the resources in the community. That was actually how this network was established, because the Navigator provides direct service and they take the phone call. It's totally free. They make referrals to the other agencies and get them plugged into the services they need. My role is to support the agencies to make sure they all know each other, and that those, if there are needed referrals or if folks need to go to a different agency, that the agencies know everybody and know all the players in the game.
And the board has not really been updated on the Navigator program, but basically, you fund it every year in the operating budget through our human service grants. And it's managed by Outer Cape Health Services, but it provides navigators, very savvy and clinically adept clinicians who are in all of our towns. So basically, they're at the library, they're at the police station, they deal with fire and police and COA referrals and all kinds of school referrals. So wherever the issue is, they will go to it, which is really fabulous. So you can hear more about that at some point, too.
But so I've never heard about the Navigator grant.
I know, I'm sorry.
It's brand new, it's brand new to me. How is all that resource communicated? I mean, how would the individual, any resident in Eastham know, I have a problem, this problem, I'm going to call this navigator or this. How does that
In order
happen?
to get to the navigator level, you have to be in a situation that is, you know, yes, in social work, what we used to call, you have to have, you know, problems on more than one axis. Like, you're overwhelmed. And so you are going to be in contact with someone who can get you to the navigator.
Who is that someone? In other words, my wife beats me every night.
Yeah, you're going to
Okay,
call the
Who
police.
am I going to call, who do I call that would, and she doesn't really, well,
Listen to
maybe
me.
she does, but who do I call to get that help?
Police, fire. If you're hanging out at the library, you can talk to a librarian. They know where the navigators are. You know, it's not something that we say, call 1-800-NAVIGATOR, because they couldn't deal with that level of, they don't want to. We don't want them to be dealing with problems of mild depression or something that you could talk about with your provider if you have a doctor or your sister or your aunt. You know, we want someone who is in serious crisis or homeless or doesn't have food or has some more than one issue to be able to find that service and have it come to them.
And usually it's, you start asking everyone and you start calling every single
Yes.
phone number on every single flyer and every single organization
Yes.
is usually what happens. And then at some point, someone's going to be like, hey, have you called this person yet? And that's
However, I think as Alex continues to do her work with all of the agencies, I mean, and Art is our king of communication, and he's really phenomenal. He's forced me to communicate in ways that I never would have communicated before. But basically, I think as the network continues to do its work, the connections are going to become stronger and more pervasive, and we will be able to get people way, way sooner than where the navigator is, and that's the goal. And ARPA is also going to serve that purpose too. So what we're trying to do is create this safety net for all residents of all 4 towns over time. And they've done a fabulous job, and now we have a little bit of cash assistance from the county to really form it a little more strongly, maybe weave the tapestry. Oh, boy, I'm waxing poetic now. Oh, Emily wants to speak.
Yes.
find a microphone.
One of the things that I think is like a core value for us is that we all are trying to communicate with folks in our town about how whatever programming is going on next door, they can participate in too.
Yes.
So it's not just that staff is working together and that agencies are working together, but the residents of all of our Outer Cape communities are realizing that we're on the same, you know, we're in the same area, so we can have the same access to the same programs, no matter what town it's in. or
So an
whatever.
Eastham resident can go to the Adult Ed Wednesday program in Provincetown, or if someone's uncomfortable talking about the fact that their wife beats them because they're a strong guy and the chairman of a select board, they could actually go to another town and talk to someone.
Yes, and I just want to add one other thing, is that we are very lucky to have as many resources as we do. There are lots of health and human service agencies that are already providing services, those client services, right? So having conversations with individuals who are dealing with issues of domestic violence. We're very lucky to have the Independence House, and even though they are based in Hyannis, they have someone who comes out to the Outer Cape at least once, often twice a week, to make connections and meet face-to-face with folks who are dealing explicitly with domestic violence. So once you get and the Independence House is a very active and engaged member of the network. So the navigators can make those referrals to the Independence House, or vice versa. So because each of these agencies might have a slight spin on what they specialize in, that's where the navigators come into play, because they can really funnel them to exactly the perfect place and resource for them to get those people exactly what they need in that situation.
And one of the things that I wanted to talk to you guys about at some point is maybe using that open spot at Town Center Plaza for a place where, you know, Outer Cape Community Solutions might be able to work out of, where people might be able to meet clients or regroup, or, you know, have a phone and a computer at their disposal for instance, the navigator goes to the library, goes to the police station. Some of those spots are great, but, you know, there are other spots that we could use too, so,
We got two more questions.
okay.
It's a two-part question. So one of the things we've had in our goals for the last 3 years, as long as I've been on the select board, and prior to that, was that we wanted to find a way to pool resources across towns. So that instead of everybody hiring an A person, you find a way that the towns can work together and pool those resources. You guys have been successful in doing that in this memorandum of understanding. So, number one, do you have any best practices that you want to tell us about as to how you accomplished that? And number two, what was the most difficult thing in doing that?
You want me to take that?
Yeah, go for it.
So I'm going to speak from a Wellfleet perspective because that's where this began for me. And I think it comes down to relationships and building relationships, meaningful relationships. So the health agents happen to all get along really, really well. And I think that has been the central cog in moving this forward, is that when you have a group of people that are committed to one another and want to work together, it's obviously a lot easier. We had some bumps in the road along the way, and it seems as the staff changes and we get new folks in, we're getting the right people, and that seems to make it work and work really well. We're committed to each other, so we wouldn't want to let each other down. We show up when we say we're going to show up. We respond. We take phone calls, you know, at all hours of the day if there's a question. So I really think the key to making it successful is the relationships that you have with your colleagues.
I would certainly agree with that. It's so much so about relationships, and having aligned values is what I've seen, especially in our health and human service partners. There are lots of different people, for instance, in the food access world who support improving food access in different ways. At the end of the day, they all want to get more food into people's hands. They all have that in common. And keeping that front and center of every conversation, even when things get a little bumpy, is just really critical and key. And that's my whole role, is to just help people stay aligned with their values and their vision. Because folks really, we're so lucky to have many, many people, including these health agents, who want to do a really good job and want to improve the public health in their community. So if you've got the right people in the job who really care about their work and who are willing to have those hard conversations to move the needle forward, that's where the magic can happen.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, one. Alex, you had said, and I might not have heard the verb right, have you hired or you will hire a nurse? And how did that work? Where did the funds come from? Did you work with the 4 towns? Did it come from only the grant? When the grant's gone, how's it going to work? That kind of thing is one of the things that happens in trying to jointly work together with 4 towns. You have 4 different tax bases.
Yes, that's a really good question. And I'm not sure if I should take this question. Or
Me too.
Go for it, Jackie.
So the 4 agents made a tremendous amount of progress on their own with just the limited funds that they had, or going on, you know, getting little grants here and there. And, you know, they all were very committed, and during COVID even bonded even stronger. I mean, I saw it in my household too. So definitely you guys were tighter as a result of that. Having a person trying to encourage that, like Alex in the position that she's in, is really pivotal in sort of crossing that finish line. I think, you know, it's like when we ask you for a new position, this is why. It's like when someone's dedicated to something, and that something is bringing people together and eliminating gaps in service, then it happens faster. So that's, I think, circling back to Art's question. But in terms of Jerry, nobody's been hired yet, so we just received the notice of award and signed all the contracts, I think, 2 weeks ago. And so right now, the group is trying to figure out next steps. I know Hillary's been working with Shayna to do procurement, because we have to officially do RFPs for some of these services. So it will be 6 months or so before we have people that we can introduce you to, but it's happening, and the money is coming 100% from ARPA right now. Our intention, I guess I'll just go out on the limb, is the same way the Navigator happened. The Navigator happened because Provincetown had dedicated $100,000 to a Navigator, and we loved the model. And so Truro, Wellfleet, and Eastham, and this is maybe almost, might be 10 years ago now, right? The 3 other towns said, well, we want a Navigator. So we each coughed up $25,000 and purchased our second Navigator, and now it's grown, there's 3 or 4 of them in our region.
There's 10.
10 of them, but that goes all the way to Harwich, right? It goes farther now.
Yes.
Yeah. 10 of them. So we're still kicking in our 25,000. And so, you know, if you do the math on this one, the grant that we have, if we apply that same principle and take some of our human service funds and put it towards a program like this, then we can continue this in perpetuity.
Right, so
The ask will come.
so it's really
Just
the
to prepare
towns
you.
working together, both.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not just coordinating, but also coming up with
Right,
fu-
but if
funding.
if each town hired a town nurse,
Yes, it would be much more expensive, yes.
You might recall we committed, not less past town meeting, 2 town meetings ago, for funding for a part-time social worker. We haven't executed on that yet because this might solve that problem, but we already have $40,000 earmarked in our human service budget
Remember
to
that.
supplement this in the future, once we get through the ARPA funds.
Right.
I thought we did have someone working in that role last year.
no.
We do have a contract with the VNA through the health department
Oh.
for some smaller,
For nursing, but not for behavioral.
yeah, not for behavioral health.
Okay.
So the idea being, you know, you're already investing in this navigator role who can kind of, as Jackie was painting this picture of unraveling the challenges that one might have and when they're in crisis, when there's a number of different issues going on. So that navigator's there to help them, you know, unravel that messy yarn and connect them to the resources they need. Then the town nurse would be there to help provide more clinical services in a super accessible way, similar to the Navigator program, able to go to their home, no matter what the medical need is, work with them on education, helping them manage their medical needs. And then the behavioral health component, providing one-on-one therapy for folks because there is simply not enough, there are not enough resources for behavioral health. So serving in those crisis moments for folks who have a really acute need for a period of time and bringing them those services and supports. So really creating this safety net really exclusively through the towns who can then, those folks can then funnel other folks into health and human service agencies as needed. It's creating more safety nets further up the stream.
And for the same premise, if we don't want to do it because it's the right thing to do, which of course I know all of you want to do it because it's the right thing to do, there is an economic value in doing it, because for every intervention that we don't have to send an ambulance with 3 paramedic EMTs out and police going out to homes where really police presence isn't really the thing that's needed, all of those things cost us enormous amounts of money and don't help people in the long run. So I know I'm preaching to the choir, I'm just getting my pitch in, because we're going to start the budget soon.
Regionalization is good too, yes.
Anything else?
I just have a comment. I'm glad to know that a mental health professional is added to that, because I think one of the most disheartening things that I know occurs is that you know someone in crisis or your child is in crisis and you finally get a referral, or maybe you don't need a referral at this point, and then the wait is
Right, yeah.
beyond usefulness. And so I feel like that's a very big need for our community, in addition to just practical accessing primary care. I had a primary care doctor, and then they left, and so I have to, I guess, get another one. And so I also have some concern over how our issues with housing are going to impact hiring some of these people and even just doctors as well. We have where the housing kind of, yep,
It's all connected.
it's all connected. But, and I am very glad that you are all working on it so that I can, when I'm feeling particularly grumpy about our challenges in this rural area, I can be like, all right, there's people working on it.
Yeah, a day at a
Yes.
time, a step at a time.
Yes, and supported by other rural communities. There's a lot to learn simply by getting out of those silos, not just in our own community, but in other communities across the state, across the country, because hiring in rural communities is a challenge, period. So yes, it's certainly a thought.
Well, thank you very much, we really appreciate it.
Thank
And
you.
just to clear up one thing in case she's watching, my wife does not beat me.
But she might tonight.
Thank you very much.
This might be rough.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Sorry, Art. Couldn't help it.
Okay,
irresistible.
next, Shana's up. Talking
Shana's
about
up.
tiny houses.
Shana and the tiny houses.
Yes, I'm here to talk about tiny homes. I think this conversation kind of arose, I sent a few articles to Jackie and Paul, and we've talked about it in a few meetings and things like that over the last year or so. So tiny homes are about 200 to 450 square feet. They are affixed to a trailer. They, can hook up to water. They have composting or incinerating toilets. They cost about $60,000. It can increase from there. The cost savings are mainly due to the movable foundation and the need to not have to hook into the septic system, but you could hook into a septic system, as well as put it on more of a permanent foundation. And then I found 3 businesses around Massachusetts that construct the tiny homes. So there's Backcountry Tiny Homes, B&B Micro Manufacturing, and Brady Built. And then that's pretty much, everything in a nutshell about tiny homes. It's an option. It's not an option for everybody. They may only be suitable for 1 or 2 people. And, most people don't really have a lot of options here on the Cape. So it's just another thing to consider that maybe the Board of Health and the Planning Board and Zoning Board can look at further as, a potential bylaw amendment, and put together some guidelines for you to consider.
And you found some towns. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you do it.
So, what's the difference? When I think of a tiny home, I don't think of a trailer, okay? I think of a thing that looks like a house, it's just small,
Right.
okay? So what's the difference?
It seems to me, from what I've gathered, that tiny homes are considered, in that term, on a trailer. They're
Movable.
movable.
They're movable, but, okay.
But they don't
So
have
if
to
you
be.
put the tiny home on a fixed foundation, whether it's slabs or there's some kind of concrete footings, or, a crawl space foundation, it would be like a tiny ADU type of dwelling.
Which is exactly what I'm thinking of. Tiny ADUs.
Yeah. So,
Well, when you say trailer park, people get real nervous,
Yeah.
okay? And so I never thought of this as a trailer park per se. I thought of it as just a small house on a small lot, okay?
We used to call them cottages.
Yeah, you still need
Well,
the,
it's not
They,
quite a cottage.
they used to be everywhere.
Yeah, but no, because those cottages are probably 1 and 2 bedrooms, are a little bit more substantial than what I was thinking of. So based on your write-up, there's a number of changes we would have to make to our zoning bylaws to be able to do this.
correct, and that's where you saw the memo from Paul. He's listed a few things where it's kind of listed and some areas where it needs to be addressed. And it looks like, from my research, a few towns in Massachusetts have kind of addressed it. Nantucket has a bylaw that addresses it. The town of Sheffield is looking at it. And I've reached out to the Great Barrington Affordable Housing Trust. They're looking at potentially offering funding for the tiny homes. So hopefully we hear back as to whether or not that's gone forward. But because it's on a trailer-type foundation, I'm assuming it's going to be considered personal property, so it's going to be pretty difficult for somebody to get financing for something like that, unless they build it on, you know, a traditional foundation, and then it would be considered like an accessory dwelling, so it could increase their property value and the value of the building and that sort of thing.
But you could, as part of the bylaw, say it has to be on a permanent foundation.
You could.
Yes.
Yep.
It can't be trailerable.
And it would be tiny ADUs.
Yeah,
Or-
well,
How about the
Or
portable
tiny,
classrooms?
tiny U's.
Why can't we take the portable classrooms and make some tiny homes?
We could. I've already asked Justin about it. We could.
the class, yes, that was your big thing.
My big
when-
thing.
Well, and some
As
of
soon
those-
as I saw them, I
Some of
wanted
those
them.
already have bathrooms in them,
They have everything.
right? They
They have
can't
kids.
use them because, right, at the high school, they don't use those individual bathrooms within the classroom
Yeah.
because they have the common bathrooms, and it would exceed the septic
But they're
capacity.
But
probably
anyway,
larger than 500 square.
They are. They would be normal homes.
Yeah, they're larger than
20
500
years
square
ago.
feet, yes.
But if we follow up with Paul's memo, he went through all the issues that we would have to sort of address zoning-wise and to do this. But I was, just, Art and I were wondering if you guys were interested in it, because it seems like a better, lower-cost solution to some of our issues.
Absolutely, whether they're on a trailer or not, and I think it's just the dwelling size, we need to redefine that in our bylaws, that's probably one of the biggest things, because otherwise they need to get a special permit.
Well,
at this
But
point.
health would have to opine with the trailer thing, so I think we have to discuss with them like a foundation and the building inspector
Yeah,
too.
but it's not just the home. I mean, you would have to increase density, so you would have to reduce the lot size as well and put that, a half-acre lot, have 2 or 3 of them on there. I mean, just shrinking the homes with the same lot sizes doesn't increase our,
I'm not sure increasing, I mean, if everyone did a tiny home ADU, that would be, if
Well,
we have,
yeah.
6,100 parcels, then
Add
that
an
would
ADU.
create a lot of housing.
The
units.
application as an ADU would be beneficial.
Right,
And it would look like a large shed.
exactly.
yes, yes, I was thinking of a shed.
They
thinking of-
fit in with our rural aesthetic.
Yeah.
They're, good for kids who move home after college, or for retirees that need a small space and want to be close to their relatives, but you don't want them in your house. I mean, there's a lot for single people with a dog, a cat.
Yes.
I just think it makes housing more affordable.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You don't have to spend, what is the average now, $700,000
More
in
than
East Hampton?
that.
You don't have to spend that. You can spend $60,000, maybe a little bit more,
Well, you're gonna
end
get
up
a
with a
lot.
nice house. It's not gonna be a mansion, okay? You're not gonna have a pool, but you're gonna have a very nice house, and it's gonna look great from the outside, and you're providing housing. I just think it's a great idea. So Paul, let's change all that stuff.
Yeah. Get on it, Paul.
Can I make a couple comments?
Suzanne wants to
So one of
bring
them,
reason.
I will try and contain my comments about tiny homes. So number 4, because I feel like tiny homes kind of got glamorized by the internet. And so I want to reiterate that it is really not for anybody. And I don't want marginalized people who don't have any other option to be like, well, I guess this is it. And then you end up with a whole family in a tiny home because that was the only option we had. And we did that because we changed the size of habitable space. Anyway, number 4, it says mobile
Well,
tiny homes.
actually, it's going up. The size of the habitable space.
Well, so it says that there's requirements for how big it can be, and it can't be smaller than that. And so if we do make it smaller than that, people are going to be living in a smaller,
You can't add
Area.
people necessarily, that's the thing.
right, but then someone would have to enforce, you can't add, you'd have to enforce an occupancy on the tiny home. That was not really my point. But the number 4, it says something about prohibited use, permanent dwelling units, house trailers, campers, huts, tents, portable, semi-portable buildings. And I have questions about how the tiny homes are constructed on top of trailers in terms of like how they withstand wind and storm. And then I also wonder about,
That's why they're not allowed.
well, right, and.
It's the primary reason.
And so I like the idea of it needing a foundation and it just being a smaller house and not necessarily one on wheels, because then I think we're going to get into the territory of someone being like, I want to live in a camper
No, I
or an
think-
RV, or, you know, if the size gets so small that you get to the larger end of, you know, an RV.
No, I agree with you 100%. I think it's the way we structure it. And you can't, right now, you can't live in an RV in
No.
this town. No, I'm just thinking of, however we structure it, it's such that we bring the cost of housing down. And that means the size of the house has got to go down to bring it down. But I think we can do that aesthetically pleasing, in an aesthetically pleasing way, and provide options for people that just can't afford $700,000. And so,
And Suzanne, I do understand your concerns, but I think this is not a one-off. It's not a one solution. You know, we have to put every tool we have into this toolbox in order to even make a dent in this housing crisis. So if one of the things we're realizing with ADUs is that people want to do it, and they just, the expense is daunting. And so even if we can give them, some people, a third of the people that want to do ADUs, an option that's a little less expensive, then that can't hurt, right? It might only double our ADUs. We did 15 this year. Maybe we do 30 next year if we have a tiny option. I don't know. But just thinking about any tool we can pull out to make it easier for somebody to have a place to live that's safe and warm and has a little kitchen and a little tiny bathroom.
I guess I feel like there was reasons why there are zoning bylaws for this is why we decided that this was the amount of space you needed to provide for somebody for a habitable space. And we're looking at lowering that because there are people who have third, fourth, fifth, sixth houses and investment firms, and the houses exist, they're just empty.
And very, very big.
And very big and very expensive. And so I just, you know, I want to provide people places to live and safe places to live. And some of the reasons you just listed will overlap with someone also wanting to live in an RV. And so where do our values of like, what do we think someone who is disadvantaged, what sort of living situation do we think they deserve? And
Suzanne, I'm telling you, I am not disadvantaged. I am privileged. I'm a privileged white woman, and I can't wait to have a tiny ADU in my backyard.
Okay.
and I understand that, and I know there's some people who willingly want to make that decision, and then there's other people where the decision gets made for them, and we have to find that balance of, you know,
Right,
I don't want that
balance.
to be somebody's only option is like
But
they
what
would,
option would they have now?
right, but that's
And
the
it's not going to
addressing.
mean that we don't continue to build affordable housing and that we don't continue to work on our housing plans to provide, you know, units of housing that are bigger, but it's another option. But you're not going to get those 500, 600,000 square foot houses back anyway. They're gone. They're already big. They're not, no one's going to buy them and split and say, oh, it's way too big, I'm going to make a 1,000 square foot house out of it. You know, we've lost those forever. can't take them back.
I do think it's an area to look at. I'm sorry, Jerry?
I just have one, Shana, could you possibly send me or send the group the copy of the bylaw of Nantucket?
Oh,
Because I
it's,
think that would be,
Isn't it in the
is it in the pack?
It
I
is,
didn't see it.
yes.
I must have missed it.
It's just after the paragraph on next steps. Nantucket Tiny House Bylaw, and it's 139-2. I have it here if you want it.
All right, yeah, I'll look at it. I appreciate, because talk about a town that clear, well, actually, a county actually would want to keep things going,
Yeah.
that would be one. Oh, okay.
And the other town is Western Mass, one in Western Mass.
It's not in ours.
It's not in our packet.
It's not in our packet.
That's,
And did you get
Okay.
pictures? And-
Did you
No.
get pictures? Oh, I'm so
Just
sorry.
got Paul's memo.
all right.
We got
I
Paul's memo and.
I haven't lost my mind
Oh.
completely.
I am so
Good.
sorry.
Okay,
two
so you
memos,
should,
you
I
know.
mean, so the memo I put together talks about the foundations and the cost and,
Yeah, we have,
utilities and.
I'll send it to you. It has pictures, it has
do
all the
have a memo.
bylaws.
It
Shana,
just
you can
is,
get that, she's going to send it to us,
It's
so
only
you can
two-
keep this valuable piece of paper.
it's only 2 pages long, so maybe the other pages got.
Huh.
It stops at options to expand potential for tiny homes, amend zoning bylaw.
So she did the zoning, there's 3 towns that she added, and there's lots of pictures.
All right,
Great, that'd be great.
that'd be nice to see, that will help clarify some things, what others have done.
Any other questions, comments?
Can I just add a comment?
Sure.
Just to speak to Suzanne's
Will you
concern.
come to the
Sorry.
microphone? It's okay.
What is the health code habitable space?
Well,
Tell
that's
her
what I
that
was
one.
going to
Yeah.
tell Suzanne, because the health code, the housing code recently changed, and they did add a section for alternative housing, and tiny homes would fall under that, but the regulation goes on to state that it must be owner occupied. So if it is not owner occupied, their permit gets nullified. So it has to go through the Board of Health, and then it has to remain owner occupied.
So it can't be a rental,
So it can't be rented,
even year-round?
even year-round.
I mean,
So that would
that
hit
makes
an
me feel a
ADU.
little bit better.
Doesn't make me feel better,
Well, that's in Nantucket's bylaw.
That hits the ADUs, because you'd have to move into the ADU.
No, our bylaw says that one of them has to be
Yeah, but the
owner
health,
occupied, not both.
the health one,
The health one says that the tiny home or the alternative housing unit would have to be owner occupied.
wouldn't that supersede the, I would think health ones have a higher priority than,
Oh, yeah, it's, we can't go against,
Right.
we can do more restrictive, but not less. Thank
Just
you.
food for thought, sorry.
Seems
Okay.
counterproductive.
It does, it seems very counterproductive.
yeah.
Because how big is a legal bedroom?
70, oh, 100,
100 square feet.
I thought it was only 70.
Right? So, see, that's how tiny
10 by 10.
the law is
It's more
now.
like 7.
Right,
10 by
right, and so, you know,
For one person, it's 70 square feet.
So if it's,
10 by
if
7.
it's 300 square feet, it's pretty big.
I have some friends that have a
I know.
275 square foot condo in Provincetown, and it's.
It's huge.
But there are
you have to
many
do-
tiny
you have
condos
to
in
compete,
Provincetown.
You know, it feels like you're doing a gymnastic event to make the bed, because you have this much space.
I lived in an apartment in Provincetown where my sink was the size of a shoebox.
If you're in Europe, that's what they're all like.
Yeah.
I mean, all the places are very, very small. Okay, Shana, thank you very much.
All right.
Really
I'm
appreciate
so
it.
sorry they didn't get your material. We will handle that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks a
You're up,
lot.
Paul.
Next.
After you
can-
get done here, you can go back and start changing the zoning laws.
You
No,
can-
Sorry, I can't tell
It's
them.
on the list.
Jackie's going to ask you to go back and change the zoning.
Thank you, nice.
Thank you.
Bye, nice to meet you, Hillary.
Nice to meet you guys. I look forward to working with you.
Take care. And we'll put your phone number up on the website, all right?
Please do. Hopefully it was much busier.
So, good evening. Here to give you an update on the Business Improvement Program for FY '23. Pleased to report that All of the grants for the program recipients, all the projects have been, all but 2 are completed, and the 2 remaining are substantially completed, just a few items that they have left to do. Just as a quick background, this program came out of one of the 5 recommendations that came out of the Rapid Recovery program that was part of the grant that we got back in the start of COVID. The state, we were only one of 2 Cape Towns that got this grant to have assistance from consultants to come down and try to help us reach out to local businesses, try to overcome some of the obstacles that they were experiencing with adapting to COVID-19 and utilizing exterior spaces and so forth. So this was one of the best practices, was to provide these grants to help businesses utilize exterior spaces, but then also we can kind of combine that with the data that we had that showed there were a substantial amount of our commercial space that were in need of upgrades, and there was a lot of deferred maintenance and so forth. So we had a pretty successful pilot program. This is really started as a pilot program. We had a budget of $125,000 that the select board, I should actually back up just a second, because I always like to know there's a method to our madness here. And this program did align well with our long-term plan, so there was an alignment with our strategic plan. It also aligned with the select board's goals of helping local businesses. And again, this came out of the Rapid Recovery Plan. So it did fall nicely into our long-term planning. So the select board did authorize $125,000 through the ARPA funds to fund this pilot program. We had 20 proposals, which totaled $400,000 in requested funds. We were able to do 6 projects at $121,000, a little over $121,000. And I gave, in the memo, I gave you a breakdown of all those projects that were funded. We had a review group, and Art was part of that, and we had some assistance of staff, Art, and some staff from Lower Cape Development. Their business outreach folks helped to vet the programs, and so I think that process went fairly well. And as I said, we were able to fund 6 projects, and they are all going well. They've been really, they got right to it. The projects got going fast. They were able to hire, for the most, as far as I know, all local contractors to do the work, and things are going smoothly. So we were able to put $75,000 in the budget for this year, so we are planning to do a phase 2. And probably start the outreach for that in August to the local businesses, get the word out that there's another round. And my plan is to reconvene that group that did the vetting and just make sure there's any opportunities for improvement on how we did that process and go from there. But as I said, I'm pleased with the results. I should credit Lauren Barker, who was here. She really did the heavy lifting on all this, got the program up and running, but left us in a good place where we can continue to run with it. So I think it's been a success.
Suzanne?
I have one question. I think it's one question. You had 20 applications last time. Do you have a plan for reaching out to the ones that were not selected directly to let them know that we're going to do this again? Will they receive any sort of different priority in the evaluation process, or that is yet to be determined?
Well, we did reach out to everyone who didn't get funded and just explained, and we did offer to sit with them and explain, where, what just kind of put the other ones over the top. I should say, we didn't really have any, they were all worthy,
Right.
They all had merit to them. It just, as so often is the case with these grants, you got to look for the little things that define it, and what was the best value for the funds. I would say, I want to convene that group and just see, evaluate, kind of debrief from that. But I would say, we probably run the program similar. and kind of start from zero with everybody. I think there's a kind of built-in advantage maybe for folks that applied once and didn't get it because they already
Went through the process.
know
yeah.
it, so. But I think we have to kind of run it baseline.
Also, do you happen to know how Ben and Jerry's is going to paint their patio barriers? I saw you there the other day with them, and I was like, maybe Paul knows how they're going to get painted.
They're painting the patio?
There's like cement.
They have Jersey barriers.
Yeah, they're,
Yeah.
So this is an area of room for improvement, I think. The balance is we want to activate these spaces and the businesses want to use these spaces, but we also got to make sure that they're safe. And
Right.
as you know, we have issues with people jump the curb all the time, so we have that location.
Right.
And so during the evaluation process with the staff, you know, we had health, police, fire, my department, and we tried to make sure that where we had those exterior areas adjacent to the parking, that we had barriers that were going to be adequate. The Jersey barriers are kind of the quickest, easiest, they're not inexpensive.
Also ugliest, but go ahead.
Yeah, they're not inexpensive,
but they
but
are the
they're
best.
quick and easy, and they'll stop a car.
Yeah. Effective.
But there are other options. So to get back to Ben and Jerry's, I spoke with the owner. He wasn't originally planning to do the barriers, but that was really the only solution that was going to work for
Right.
the timeline and everything. So he wants to just kind of paint them. I don't know exactly his plan, but something to blend with.
Cows?
Well, I can,
I don't
I
think,
was like, we have some
Checkerboard.
artists in
Snickersons, you know,
town.
just try and.
Stop it.
I mean, that's what I thought, and I thought that would be fun.
so there are, I mean, he did discuss some options. I mean, there are ways, they make planters that you can, that they're made.
That
from
you can
sit on top
attach to
of
the
them,
Jersey
so-
barriers.
So
I
he,
agree with.
he's looking at some different
I
options,
agree
but
with
he-
Suzanne. I don't think anything you can do to those barriers is gonna make them look much better. But you could do bollards, okay?
Oh, I was just wanting to know, I just thought maybe you knew what they were going to paint
No,
on
he-
them, because I was like,
he
oh, they're
just-
going to paint
I don't
them.
think,
They look horrible.
I don't
But
think you
boulders.
can do bollards because you don't own that parking lot, right?
Well, how can he put his Jersey barriers up if he doesn't own that spot?
Well, the Jersey barriers are removable. Bollards
You
are
can have
not.
bollards that come out of the ground and go back in the ground.
yeah, there's different options.
And it would
It's
just-
just-
it
Sorry,
would-
I
As I
it would-
said, that's one area where I think we can work.
It would
I'm
be
sure.
really, really nice, because those Jersey barriers really take it down. I mean, it's not my business.
I thought you were going to be like, yeah, they're going to paint it green and put cows on it, is really what I thought your answer
I
was
don't-
going
I
to
don't
be.
know
You're like,
what-
oh, we're going to put flowers on it.
Planters would be nice.
I don't know what his plan is. He did
Oh,
say,
okay.
he wants to dress up the barriers himself. and
Good.
Yeah. I mean, I assumed as much. I just
So can.
was wondering if you knew the details. It's okay that you don't. I'm not like, it's fine.
So, and we did put out a kind of best practice guidelines for exterior improvement, which, you know, barriers are one of the suggestions, but there's a lot of other
Okay.
options, so we're trying to promote.
The thing about Jersey barriers, though, too, is you could build some, you know, fairly inexpensive wooden to go over the top of them.
Yes,
Yeah, something like that,
Yes.
just to hide
Right,
it,
to
yeah.
cover them up.
that's like, yeah, that's driftwood or something
Or it
looking,
looks
yeah.
like a fence, or,
Yeah.
you know, but it's a wooden fence, but it's got concrete in there to stop a car.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, that's
I
true.
agree.
It's a great idea.
There's
I think we
options.
don't want to have Jersey barriers all over the town and all these
right.
places, but
But there is, I mean, this has been a great program.
Yeah.
I mean, driving by these places, there's an obvious difference in how they
Yeah.
look. So just a super program that we need to continue and expand upon if we
Yeah.
can. Because they look great, they
no,
really do.
I agree, and I thank the board for the support and
Yeah.
supporting in the budget as well, so.
Yeah, and we learned that you need barriers in some places, and that's got to be part of the design.
Yeah,
Well, it happens like once a year.
it's true.
Well, COVID, it really happened when people had the outdoor,
Yeah.
or the pop-up outdoor
Right, and now there'll
areas.
be like people there. Yeah.
All right.
Uh,
Thank you, Paul.
Hey, Paul,
Thank you, Paul.
you do wonderful things.
Administrative matters. First, we're going to talk about the docks at Wiley Park.
Oh, no.
It's bad news about the docks at Wiley Park. They're falling apart, and Christine and the rec department, we don't want to replace the docks at Wiley Park. We're the last town to have docks because they're kind of dangerous. And so we want to remove the docks and not have them. It's going to be not popular.
A lot
But
of
how
letters.
much do replacement docks, we don't have a lifeguard, do we?
That's the thing. It's not really safe because the water levels go up and down. So that's one of the things that she's afraid of, is that they'll be diving, because there's always a lot of, middle school age kids on the docks, and that they'll be diving and that they'll.
Without lifeguards.
Yeah, without lifeguards, it's dangerous.
Just thought exercise, how much does replacing docks cost in the event that we had lifeguards?
Oh, if you wanted to bring them back,
Yeah.
then we could budget for it. It's not like, the expense is not the biggest issue. The biggest issue really is the safety issue, but since we're at a point where we have to replace it, now would be the time to pull it for a little bit.
Are the docks out now?
They're not in,
They're
they
not in,
haven't
that's what I
gone
mean.
in, yeah.
They're not in yet.
Yeah,
They're
Has
not
your phone
putting
been
them in.
ringing yet?
not yet, no, but it'll happen, I'm sure.
Yeah, I support not putting the docks in since we don't have lifeguards. I did silly things there when I was a youth, and you knew that the lifeguard would come and yell at you.
Yeah,
No running on the docks.
exactly.
The
Yeah,
no
I
running,
think
don't
it
go
is.
under them, and hang out.
And we are bringing back swimming lessons, so,
Yes, swimming
things can
lessons.
happen. Good things can happen too.
So the question though is how do we communicate this? Is it a rip the tape off the mouth? The docks are gone?
They're
I mean,
not, yeah,
Is there
they're
some
just-
pre-communication we can do to prepare people for it?
Put a
Or is
sign
it better
down
just
there.
to do it?
I think we just have to put a sign down there
No
because
dogs, no
we're not
lifeguards.
putting them in because, because otherwise, you don't know the people that use Wiley Park. I mean, you know some of them, but
Right.
you're not going to capture all of them.
Is there an issue with the mooring for the docks underneath? Do we have to pull those up where
No,
they are?
no, we do that. They pull the moorings up.
So even the hook, all of that's up? All right.
So you can think about it, but
No, I
that's
mean-
what Christine is recommending at this
Well,
point.
I
do we
don't,
need to think about it? Is everybody okay with it?
yeah, do you need a vote?
No.
You don't need a vote.
No, I'm just letting you know because I know it's going to be,
Go for it.
We're gonna hear,
tough.
I
we're
think
gonna hear about it.
signage is gonna be key down there,
Yeah.
just no lifeguards, no docks. And swimming lessons from whatever days of the week, 3 days a week or something?
they're going to be 5 days or 6 days a week. It's just that each kid can only do 3 a
Different-
week.
Different age.
Yep.
different-
So do we have a lifeguard for the swim lessons?
Well,
Yes.
She
teachers,
she
we
has
have
three
instructors.
teachers.
Okay, so the instructors count toward the.
Instructors are
okay.
certified.
Okay, all right. Just
Okay,
checking.
let's move on.
No,
to
that's a good question.
Item 2, Capital Projects Committee Review Change.
Did you get that in your
Yes.
packet?
Yes.
Okay, good.
In my pocket.
I did someplace in here.
So basically, I did a draft.
Yes, I
We
got
were
it.
going to add a couple of more things to it, but I didn't. I just sent it out the way it was at this point for you to take a look at, because I knew that you'd let me know if you wanted more there. I don't know what I did with my copy.
Where was it? Oh, underneath the administrative items. Oh,
Right.
okay.
It's the first thing in administrative matters.
Yeah, and it's pretty much, what we did in the charter.
Right.
So,
No, actually, yeah, I thought it was fine, but I thought the charter, now I may be wrong, it was one committee.
Yes,
And here we have,
one committee.
and here you have, for each project, you can get 2 other people for each. So that would,
Just-
in one sense, I don't know, it
So
seems
my
to create
vision
different
is
kind
we
of
have a
committee.
quarterly meeting, right? Or maybe more if the project is intensive or whatever, but say all of our projects are on a quarterly schedule and the capital projects committee meets. And this is how we used to do it. Honestly, Sheila used to do it this way. 8 to 9 was the library, 9 to 10 was water, 10 to 11 was Rock Harbor, or some variation of that. So that people can, the 2 extra people can come and go.
Okay.
All right.
And the 5 will just stay through the whole.
And there's no, that's okay in the charter? I just don't
Yes.
remember that being added in the
Yes,
charter,
it
but
is
it's
that,
just
and they're,
memory problem.
but they're 5 permanent members.
Right.
Other people can come and go, but they're specific to only the project.
Yeah. No, that, I understood how it was. I was just,
Yeah,
for
no,
some reason,
That's
I
what-
thought the
that's what
charter
the-
just said
up
5
to-
When
permanent
it
members.
came
that
up
was
with
it.
the charter review, we were grappling with that because all of our committees had those extra people in them. And we were like, well, we don't want like the poor person who's on the library committee to have to sit through a
Right.
3-hour meeting. So
I got you.
that's the compromise that we came up with.
My only thing was
Was it in the
does
charter? Yeah.
Does the charter allow that? I couldn't remember exactly, I couldn't find it, so.
Yeah, I tried to follow the charter rules perfectly and then just add.
Because we thought back to how, say, the library project went, and it, you know, we only had the 3 capital projects, it's myself, Jackie, and who was the, select board? I was on the finance,
Oh, you were
actually, during
finance?
that.
Yeah, you were finance. Who was select board? Not Martin. I can't remember. Oh, Elizabeth.
That was Elizabeth, okay. And then, but the library trustees were always there.
Yeah.
They weren't voting members, but they were always there, so we really
And
thought.
the library director was always there.
Yeah, and we really thought it was important that you, now, anybody can obviously go to these meetings, but to have a voting, you know, have the people that have an interest in it.
Yeah.
have voting, like the
So you can-
wastewater, we might have a
I
couple
don't-
people from the Board of Health.
Yeah, I don't have any
Part of
problem. My only thing was, just make sure the charter allowed the 2 people.
Yep.
Were you a lawyer,
Up to
Jerry?
2, you don't have to have.
Were you a lawyer?
Yes.
Was I a lawyer? Yeah,
Yes,
way
still
back.
is.
It's really good, though. It's a
Yeah,
certain
It's
perspective.
great, it's
But-
great,
That's
because then
great.
I'm like,
The-
he's
no, no, no,
definitely
the
gonna
bit-
read all
Yes.
of this thoroughly.
The best thing about living in Massachusetts is being licensed in another commonwealth, in Virginia, not here. So that people, oh, yeah, I can't, I'm sorry, I'm not licensed here.
I have no idea what I'm doing in
That's
Massachusetts.
right.
Law is very different.
Now, do you need,
couldn't
what do
help
you, do you need
Well, before.
a vote on this?
Yes.
One second. The 2 members appointed by the select board are select board members or not necessarily?
They don't
They
have
don't
to
have,
be.
they can be, they don't have to be.
This is what the charter review committee did do, so that we can, and I think we just have to think about this carefully, because this is going to be a pretty pivotal committee, but it could be anyone of your choice. FinCom is already trying to think of people.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jerry, go ahead.
No, I just, does she need a motion and a vote on this? I just don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
To approve the,
I'll move that we approve the Capital Projects Committee as outlined in the memo in our packet.
second,
Is there any discussion? Okay, we'll vote Suzanne,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes,
Amy,
aye.
I'm an aye, so it passes.
Okay, so I'll put it in Shayna's format, and then send it to the FinCom for their look-see.
Mary will be happy.
She will, yeah. I just made my deadline.
Okay, the next item is the Payomet use of the Tea Time property.
Yes, they are going to, I don't know if we put anything in your packet on
Yes,
this
you
one.
did.
we have it, yes.
Circa by C. Juggle Jam.
Cirque.
Juggle Jam, yeah.
Juggle
C.
Jam.
Juggle Jam.
Cirque by the
Sorry,
Sea.
that sounds like.
Juggle Jam.
Yeah,
You better watch it, because Florida wouldn't let you do that.
it's, yeah, right?
Yeah, it's not.
It's going to be fun. They did it a couple of times last season, and this time they're going to do it weekly.
I'm so excited for this.
Yeah, kids really loved it.
What is it?
It's a juggler.
You learn how to
You
juggle.
learn how to juggle.
What's-
You can
Go
just,
learn
you
to juggle,
you
huh?
drop
I
in,
already know.
you can just drop in,
Juggle
say
Jam.
hello,
Here's
Yeah.
3 pence.
learn how to juggle. There'll be other props. There'll
Yeah.
be some hula hoops, balls, clubs.
It's just fun, you know?
You
Fire.
just kind of hang out.
You could go.
Juggle with flaming.
I saw a guy once do like, he had something really light, I can't remember what it was, but he had a bowling ball and something flaming too. He needed all, oh, it was a knife.
There'll be no flaming
Knife,
things.
a bowling ball, and flame, I mean, whoa,
No
it
flaming.
was pretty cool.
Okay, so we don't have to vote on this, right? This is approved and going forward. You're just
Trevor,
letting
for
us
the
know,
record,
right?
10 juggle torches,
Right? Okay.
flaming torches.
Okay, discussion of the Dune Shack correspondence. So, Jamie was contacted, I'll speak for her since she's not here, about whether we would be willing to add our names to, or draft a letter to the Seashore in support of the changes that Truro and Provincetown would like to make on the RFP and things that they don't think is right about the dune shacks. So the copy of their letter to the Seashore was included in your packet, and a copy of the Seashore's response to them was in your packet. So basically, the Seashore said they're gonna move forward doing what they said they were gonna do in the first place. So our question is, would we like to add our names to Provincetown and Truro as opposing what they're planning to do? So I will take input from the board.
I would say no. I think first, we have no interest in this. We have no, you know, it's not within the town of Eastham. It is within the towns of Truro and Provincetown, so, you know, I think they have a little more standing than we would in this issue. But also, in looking through I don't know if any of you actually looked through the RFP with the criteria, it's pretty, and looking at the answers from the Seashore, it's pretty straightforward. And I think, you know, a lot of it has been made about this so-called bidding war for them. The financial, you know, rent offered is one of 6 criteria that the Seashore looks at. And they only look at that once all the other aspects of the RFP have been answered. And so, I mean, it even says that amount of negotiated subsequently with the offer submitted the best proposal. So I think that's been kind of blown out of proportion, that really is, you know, a key problem with the RFP. I think they really are following their regulations. And I think, you know, people have been waiting a while for this to happen, and to try to intervene and stop it now, I think is kind of silly. It's next Monday, I think, is the deadline.
And I guess my thing would be simply that, think about how we would feel, since we are required to procure things as well. So if we owned public property, and the last thing that we vended out was the Children's Place lot, we had to go out for an RFP and do that. And imagine if another governmental entity said, we don't think you're doing this right, we think you should do A, B, C, and D. I mean, I think it's just, as a government, we should understand that they have to do a certain process. And they can't just say to someone, you can have this because we like you, or
Right.
you've had it, or, so.
Well, you know, I worked in the federal government and wrote, interpreted, and dealt with regulations. The response from the Park Service is the answer.
Right.
It's done. You want to stop it now, you go to court. And so, looking at, I agree with Amy, it's not, you know, the storm of '78 took out all the shacks that Eastham had, but to come in now is, you know, closing the barn door after the horse has left. It's done. It doesn't make, I don't agree, I agree with Amy, but it also doesn't make any sense to go forward with this, because you have the federal government's response in our packet, and they say, no, we're following the law, and we're doing the regs, and we're going forward with the RFP. So you have to go to the judicial branch to try and stop it, and I wouldn't spend any Eastham taxpayer money on that at all.
Suzanne?
I I'm so glad, Amy, for your comments, because I haven't super followed this because it's in Provincetown, and I know loosely about how it was run before. And when I saw this, I was like, that seems like a decent management tool for something that, to ensure that these properties are maintained over the next 10 years. And that, so that the park doesn't have to do it themselves because they're in a, we're gonna tear it down mood otherwise. And so I am not super, I wouldn't want to sign it, no. Also, because I'm not super familiar with, I think this may have come out of, there's somebody maybe who lives there currently, and that is upsetting to that situation, but again, I don't really know enough about it to.
Article on that, but
I would agree with all of you, that really it's not our place. So if you're okay with that, I will get back to Jamie, because the correspondence was to her, and ask Jamie to communicate back, if that's okay with everybody.
that's fine with me.
Okay. Draft letter CCRTA bus shelters. We got an email from a local resident asking if in fact we could find a way to upgrade our non-existent bus shelters.
Especially the one in the property we own, right?
Exactly.
And what Wellfleet's doing in the repaving of Route 6, or what the state is doing in the repaving of Route 6, they are going to put in all new bus shelters on Route 6 in Wellfleet. So Jackie and I and Amy talked about it. If you were agreeable, we could draft a letter asking the state to upgrade and put in some bus shelters for us.
And I think the RTA, I
Yeah,
mean,
whoever we'd have
Yeah.
to,
copy
whatever
everybody.
we'd have to
Yeah,
get in
it's,
touch with.
I'm sure the RTA is paying for
Yeah.
the bus shelters.
You
It's
think
just-
so?
Yeah.
They're within the layout of the
Yeah.
highway, I'm sure, but
But the second question is, and, you know, if they say no, we could certainly, we do own the property, so we could certainly
something.
put something up ourselves, too.
Right, I think there is a bench on our property, right?
I don't even think there's a
there's
There's not
bench.
even a bench
I
on that
think
one?
there's a
There
post.
used to be a
There's a
bench.
It's like
post,
a
there used to be a
post, and
bench.
that's-
So, okay, so I'm more than willing to draft the letter.
Yep.
Yeah,
And I'll pass it by you guys to make sure you're comfortable with it. And then I would answer the email that we are pursuing the RTA to look if we can do that. And if that's not successful, we'll look at other options.
yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah,
So
sounds
I think
great.
it would be, yeah, we'd write to the RTA, and then if they say, yes, we'll do it, or you can do it, then we would just have to ask permission from the DOT to put it. I
Okay.
think it's in, their road layout's pretty wide.
It's pretty wide, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I will
Awesome.
draft that letter. Good. Next item is the change in hours for Casa del Cabo.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're now serving breakfast,
They're now serving breakfast, yeah.
and so they want to amend their liquor license to be able to serve, I'm guessing mimosas and things like that with their breakfast food. When we were discussing this to put it on the agenda, we looked at other places in Eastham that serve breakfast and alcohol, and they were even earlier, some of them. Laura and Tony's, I think, was 7:30.
Laura and Tony's is 7:30, and Brine is 10. That's what we currently have now, so.
This one is, somewhere I lost the hours, but
They
that's,
want to go to 8. They're currently,
11:30 to 9
yeah.
PM.
Okay.
They want to go to
8 till 11
8 AM
PM.
to 11 PM.
11 PM.
So they're adding 2 hours in the front
to
Yeah.
and, in the back, at the back end, and 3.5 hours on the front end.
Now, 11 PM, I think, is what we agreed to with Caroline's.
right.
Excuse me.
So, is everybody okay with this, or
Yeah.
any
Yeah, I
comments?
think we have to,
I'll make a motion about, and then we can, if we want to discuss anymore.
Okay,
We'll make a motion that we accept the change in hours presented by Casa del Cabo to be 8 a.m. to 11 p.m.
I'll
Sec-
second.
oh.
Go ahead.
Second?
Any discussion? Not hearing any, we'll vote. Suzanne?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes,
Amy?
Aye.
And I am an aye, okay. Committee reappointments. We have a number of reappointments. Someone like to make a motion to include all those?
I'll make a motion to reappoint Ed Casarella to Recreation, Kate Berg to Human Services, Karen Strauss to the Conservation Commission, Charles Wagner to Conservation, Bonnie Nguyen to the Affordable Housing Trust, Joanna Buffington to the Open Space Committee, Francis Lewis to the Open Space Committee, Molly Chapman to the Recycling Committee, and Eileen Morgan to the Taxation Aid Committee.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Okay, we'll vote. Suzanne?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes,
Amy?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. The Taxation Aid Committee did have a booth at the Fun in the Park for the Arts Fair
right, yeah.
this weekend.
Oh, good.
So I know, because I spent 4 hours in it.
Did you make any money?
Well, I was amazed, but people, they had a donation box, and people were actually putting money in. I
Good,
don't know,
that's
we left, we took the morning, we didn't do it Saturday because of the rain, but we did
Yeah.
it Sunday, and I had the morning shift with my wife, and then Eileen came for the afternoon shift, and we had some money in the box when we
That's good.
left, so we need to, they haven't gotten that much money this year.
I know,
I know, so. Okay, now I will ask for a motion to, I guess we don't, these are just,
No,
this is just
they just end.
communication,
Yep.
okay?
Terms are ending.
Yeah.
And I will, this is the search committee, Ellen Greer, Board of Health, Adele Blanc, Human Services Advisory Committee, Beverly Hobbs, and Finance Committee, Thomas Gardner. I will draft letters of thank you to them. Okay, town manager report.
So I have a couple of extra things that weren't on my report. One is the tennis courts at Nauset High School are going to be closed because of the construction for at least a few weeks. They're not sure how long, but there's an element of construction that they have to do over there that requires that, and they're
Really dig up that whole parking lot, I think.
very sorry.
That's going to
Yeah.
be the drain
Yeah.
Parking lot's all dug up
Yeah.
already.
beach field for the.
Oh, it's the septic system, yes, that's
Septic-
it.
septic-
And I wanted to let you know, we did receive a memo from the zoning task force from Mary Nee, having some suggestions about what they would like to, or how they see continuing on this next upcoming year. And so with your permission, I'd like to put that on your July 10th agenda, so we can talk about that. I wanted to let you know of two pieces of legislation. One is, first, before I get into that, the transfer station, John, excuse me, is trying to figure out whether it will be possible to keep the transfer station open on Fridays this year. It's not looking good, we just don't have the staff. So last year, we did it with overtime, but we had more staff than we have this year. So definitely, it will not be open on Friday for the month of July. We're going to try and see if we can get it open in August.
Can you,
So we'll.
Friday for the
Thur-
summer.
Will it be open Thursday?
No, it's
No.
going to be closed Thursday,
Thursday
Friday.
through Friday.
So winter hours will extend
Okay,
to
for
summer.
the summer.
Yeah.
Okay.
can you put that on the website?
Yep.
Because it's
People
going to
will-
end up on, someone on
Yeah.
Facebook is
They-
going to
they
be
prob-
like,
they
is the
probably
dump
need-
open?
They probably should put it on the,
Sandwich board.
Sandwich
even
board that
maybe
they
at
have-
the police station, maybe.
well, the board right there at the transfer
Yeah.
station.
Do we have a, inside, you mean?
As you go in,
Yeah,
yeah,
That's right,
They
they do
have a-
have a signboard.
signboard there.
So, two pieces of legislation. I think I mentioned to you the Common Start Coalition, which is for statewide, high-quality early education and care. They have two bills, one in the House, one in the Senate. It is House 489 and Senate 301 that are in this legislative session, and they're having a rally at the State House on July 13th. They're asking for a letter of support to go to our representatives or the newspaper to get people energized about this. Julian Sear has signed on. I didn't see Sarah's name, but it seems unimaginable to me that she's not on this. So both of our legislators will probably vote for it. We got this letter.
Is that to get more money for early childhood education?
Yeah, basically, it would, if the law passes, it would require the state to provide a voucher program and more subsidies for people with 85% of median income or less. And then if they can find a funding source to extend that to, people who are, but anyway, it would certainly help us out.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to let you know about that. And then the second one is Julian sent out to us a Senate Bill 2397, and it has several elements to it. And it's one of those where the actual bill says omit this and add this. And so I tried to start doing that today, and I could only find two items so far. But he's saying that it will triple the maximum total tax credits statewide for septic system upgrades.
Oh, wow.
And
Now,
triple to
They talked about just doubling.
$18,000. And then,
Right, so it's another step
Yes.
above what Healy is.
yes.
Right. 'cause she
And
doubled.
to cover, so $4,000 for 4 years.
Okay.
And then cover 60% of total project costs up to $40,000 you can get credit for. So if you have to do an IA system, you can get credit. We don't know whether this is going to be successful. He thinks it has a few hurdles to go, but it's, it's a good step,
That's good.
right?
Well, it also increases, if my memory's right, what the governor had done is, it's 50%. This is going up to 60. So not only is it going from 12 to 18, it's going from 50% of your
Yeah.
cost to 60% of your.
And there have been a lot of amendments, but that is still in the language as of today, so. And then the second piece of this legislation is something that Art brought to my attention, and I couldn't find it, but it's in the same piece of legislation, so I found it randomly today. But it does, it establishes, it gives a municipality permission to give a tax credit on Class 1 property, so residential property, to anyone who is renting year-round to an affordable person. So they'd have to be 130% of the area median income or less. So if you rent to someone
Year-round.
100,
It's
year-round.
got to be a
Wow, that's
year-round
huge.
rental. That's a big,
But before we get too excited about it, know that this is us abating the taxes. So we're going to have to come up with a revenue source to replace that. And hopefully, if they approve the community fund, that might be a revenue source that we could
Wow, I think that could be.
try and
really
apply for that.
well, it's a way to, the interesting question would be, could you use CPA funds to help that, on that abatement? Because it's for affordable housing.
No, because it wouldn't be permanently deed restricted.
Right.
And
okay.
CPA doesn't
Would
want
ask
to
for
get
that.
into
Well, I know they don't
over-
want to do that.
There-
It's-
there
it's
is a
just
piece-
Looking at affordable housing.
Remember when we talked about the tiny home thing? There is a piece in here that says it can only, it has a little bit of math. So it's the full and fair assessed value multiplied by the square footage of the housing unit rented and occupied. So for instance, if you had an accessory dwelling unit that you were paying taxes on, it would only be for that you were renting. So
Right.
Right.
the assessor would have to figure that out, but it's
So like your main
interesting.
house, the land, you might not get the abatement on.
Yeah, we could
Housing
decide,
value
yeah.
of the
Right, we'd
house.
have- right.
But
right.
still, that's a pretty big tax break for
It's-
somebody.
It could
It's a
be,
break.
it could
Plus
be.
rents,
Well,
they
it's
get
an
rents.
abatement, so you
And
don't know
again,
how much.
it might be something where a short-term or a part-time resident who was going to move here in 3 years to retire here might say, oh, for the last 3 years, maybe we could just rent a place year-round and get our taxes abated or whatever, because we know we're going to move here. I don't know if that would be enough incentive for them, but, it's possible. I don't know.
No. All right.
Anyway, it would allow us to decide with town meeting permission to accept that provision and.
Now, is he looking for us to say, to come out in favor, or?
He's basically saying that we need to wait because they're going to go into conference. And then if it comes through conference in the same state,
Right.
then he'll want us to support it, yes.
Okay.
It's
So it's
part of a whole
it's
tax reform
It's
package.
a heads up right now.
Yep, it's a heads up. So I just wanted to let you know about those two things. And that's, I think, that's it for me. Oh, the other thing you asked me to look at was extending the family support package to under 2.9 years, so under 3 years old, right? And so I'm going to also bring that to you, a proposal to you on that on July 10th. Okay?
Because it's preschool right now, it's not.
Yeah, we do 3 and 4-year-olds,
It's
so
not
this
daycare.
would be
This would be
before.
daycare,
Yeah,
pretty
and
much,
it's
right?
that level of, it's called infant care, and that level of care is much more expensive. But we do have that $100,000 left in family support from the nutrition programs that we're not doing. So I'm going to give you a proposal. We may be able to afford something, is I guess what I'm saying. And there are a lot more kids under 3 than I thought. There's 36 of them right now.
That's good.
Kind of great, yeah. And that's all I have.
Do we have to do anything on the cable license?
Yeah, I thought we already
It's, I don't know if we,
approved it.
Yeah,
Have
you
we
need to
approved
sign
that?
it.
We
Yeah,
need
you
to-
already approved it a while ago, I think.
yeah, okay. But the signature blocks are wrong, but
She fixed them, I think.
it's fixed, okay.
Yeah, she modified some of them.
Oh, this is the police, or the union contracts, there's 2 pages on that.
Okay, next is new and upcoming agenda items and needed follow-up. Jerry had asked me, when we went through the school, we tried to get some information relative to change orders,
Yep.
and we didn't get any. So
No.
Jerry had asked me if it was something we could put on an agenda. Jerry, I talked to Jackie, and she has not been able to get them either.
Yeah, I
I
didn't,
have most of them. So now I have 1 through 4, and I have 9. What I'm looking for is where 5, 6, 7, and 8 are. But I am on it.
No, I know.
And I
just wanna
told
let
Jerry
know
that I
no,
would
no,
get
yeah,
about
listen, Jackie, that's great. The one thing, Art, and one of the things that in talking on the tour with some individual, I think, even the guy from I can't remember his name, from the school, it seems as though they're looking at that $7 million that the state is going to give us as, oh, that's another contingency that we can use. And I
Yes.
think we need to,
Yeah,
No.
Not necessarily.
because that $7 million is saying,
No.
oh, okay.
Well, the $7 million.
It's not in
as
your
you said, comes out of what
control.
we would borrow.
Comes
Yeah.
out of what we authorize?
That's it.
But the total authorization, that 7 million is coming out of the authorization? I mean, I want to make,
Spend up to what it was authorized.
We'd have to authorize more.
okay, now I understand. So the authorization's there with that $6 million contingency, that's it?
We have an $8 million
Or
contingency
8
right
million?
now.
Oh, is it 8? I
Yeah.
But if
couldn't
we were
remember.
to spend more, that would have to get approved. and spent.
Okay.
We can't just,
That's my understanding, is that they would have to ask. Now, I think it'd be easier to get it approved if we actually have a reimbursement, rather than asking for more money at town meeting,
Well,
but still, yeah.
Speaking of the school, I think we got an email from Peter Lombardi in Brewster a while, it wasn't a while back. I think someone, maybe Jerry mentioned it at our last meeting, that we should put it on a future agenda. And this is just a reminder that I guess maybe we should
Can't- I don't-
consider it.
Remind me what it was.
So that one was, there were two parts to it. One was changing the school formula to a revolving
Right.
three-year formula.
Yeah,
So
instead
that
of
was sent
three-year.
to,
Which is
yeah.
fine.
I just talked to Peter about this. So that was sent to the school committee, and they have sent it to their council, and they're taking it under advisement. So,
Does
So
make more sense
we-
to know what, you know,
exactly.
Well, it
Makes
reduces.
sense to all of
Easier
us.
to figure it out.
Flattens the
the
changes,
fluctuations,
the
yeah.
fluctuations.
And the other was something I didn't agree with, and I can't remember what it was.
I think there's two of them on that.
So does that mean we can just continue to monitor it as the school committee discusses it?
I think all four of the towns clearly want it.
Okay.
So it would be easy for us to just write a letter just in support of that, because we all the TAs told Peter that we would support that.
Okay.
But the second piece, I'm trying to think of what the second piece was. Can you remember? Oh, yeah, it was something about,
Where did I see something about getting Truro and Provincetown to?
oh, that's what it was.
That was
Yeah,
to join the.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. We don't have much.
They're never
I'm
going to
less-
do it.
I'm
We've
less
asked
interested
every
in that.
time.
And when the schools came in and explained how much more complicated it would make the district, I was like, I don't, yeah.
Plus, it's not even that for us. I mean, it's like they could, if they wanted to, pay us $5,500 per student. Instead, they're paying over $18,000 per student.
Right.
So we want to force them to pay, what,
I don't know.
22,000?
Yeah, yeah, I understand, although don't they have to have a school in order to join school choice,
No,
to pay the
It's
5,500?
not a,
no.
they're not doing choice.
No, they're not,
Oh,
no,
right.
no, but what you had just said, they would have to have a high school in order to send kids to Nauset Regional for $5,000. They'd have
As
to offer it.
choice.
They'd have
Okay.
to offer the high school
Right.
in P-Town.
Right.
And it has to
If they
be
wanted to do
staffed
choice,
and,
but-
yeah, if they want to do choice.
But they do have choices, I hate
They
to
have
say.
They have choices, they have, yeah.
They pay tuition here, or they pay tuition at
Monomoy,
Sturgis or
yeah.
Monomoy.
Sturgis,
or wherever
Monomoy,
else they
right.
send them, yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have something, Suzanne?
No, it wasn't, are you at the any other things part?
Unless you have any other new and upcoming agenda items.
I had a question about an email we got.
Oh, okay.
And I just wanted to confirm, so we have an email about, and I was going to respond to it, it was about the sand at Cook's Brook.
Yeah,
And I was wondering, I was going to respond with, actually, I was either going to ask the conservation agent or Karen for just how accurate my response would be, but I was wondering if the conservation agent has taken a peek at it or not. I'm sure it's sand, just because it's required to be sand
Yeah,
as
it's
part
not
of
dirt.
the.
I mean, sand is dirt, I'm sorry to say.
Well, I think in, when we do orders of conditions, the size and
The
like,
grains,
and the
yeah.
grain is specified, and so I just
Is
didn't
that
know.
for the
even
town
fun.
too? I know you do
Yes.
that for private homeowners, but for the town too?
Yeah, because the town has to get the permit through,
Yeah, we have to
The
get a
Conscom.
beach nourishment permit too.
yeah.
So actually, Amy, the agent's assistant, so our admin assistant, does the beach nourishment program, so I can ask her. Keith, his last day was Friday, so I'm sure he didn't get out there, but I can send
Wishful
Hillary
thinking.
out too. I think people often do complain about the quality of the sand that's added, but
Right.
My wife does all the time.
I'll,
there's a little bit of clay, there's a little
She
clay. in it.
contends there's rocks in it.
oh,
Well,
yeah. It's
you
not
know.
I
like
think so.
Florida
She
sand.
thinks
but-
there's rocks in it.
Well, once you get used to like a Florida sand, or,
Oh, yeah, it's different.
our sand is very different.
yeah,
If you didn't put in a revetment, you wouldn't have a problem.
Oh, my God.
there you go, problem
The
solved.
sand.
Okay, let's move on to minutes. And I need to approve the minutes of June 5th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of June 5th.
Second,
Any discussion? Okay, we'll vote. Suzanne?
Yes,
Jerry?
yes.
Amy?
Aye.
Me, aye. Okay, any other business or correspondence?
Make a
Do we
motion,
have
we
a-
adjourn. Oh,
do we have a pending conservation agent? Did we, it got posted? Did people apply? Did we hire someone new?
Such a good question. We have it done, first round of interviews, there are 2 finalists. I think I get to meet with them on Wednesday.
Wonderful.
So we'll have a decision by Friday, probably.
Sorry, I will hold all my other questions or comments.
Okay.
To adjourn.
You moved, I'll
There's a motion
second.
to adjourn on the table. Do we have a
Too slow,
second?
Jerry.
I'm too slow.
Jerry seconded.
Okay. Any discussion?
No.
Okay, we can vote.
Aye.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Amy?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Thank you very much.
Yay.